The term water closet was an early term for a room containing a toilet. Originally, the term washdown closet was used to describe this fixture, referencing the mechanical action of water flushing waste downward through a drainage system. The water closet, as we understand it today, was developed in England around 1870, building upon centuries of earlier attempts at sanitary waste disposal. It did not reach the United States until the 1880s, where it was initially regarded as a remarkable luxury. Around this time, only luxury hotels and wealthy people had indoor private bathrooms, and the vast majority of the population, urban and rural alike, relied on outdoor privies, chamber pots, and communal facilities. By 1890, the fear of the germ theory of disease was beginning to arise about carelessly disposed human waste being contaminated and infectious. This is stated in the book, A People and a Nation, the 8th edition. The growing understanding of bacterial transmission, championed by scientists such as Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch, fundamentally transformed public attitudes toward sanitation. Cholera outbreaks in major cities like London and New York had already demonstrated the deadly consequences of contaminated water supplies, and the link between poor sewage management and epidemic disease became impossible to ignore. Municipal governments began investing heavily in sewer infrastructure, and the indoor water closet became not merely a convenience, but a public health imperative. Originally, the term bathroom referred only to the room where the bathtub was located, which was usually a separate room entirely from the toilet. This connotation has changed dramatically in common North American usage, where bathroom now universally implies a room containing a toilet, whether or not a bathtub is present. In the UK, the terms bathroom and toilet are used to indicate discrete functions, even though bathrooms in modern British homes have been designed according to the American combined norm since around the mid-60s. Before this convergence, British homes typically maintained a strict separation between the room for bathing and the room for the toilet, a convention rooted in both practical hygiene considerations and Victorian-era sensibilities about propriety. The term water closet was probably adapted because in the late 19th century, with the advent of indoor plumbing, a toilet displaced an early clothes closet. Closets were shaped to easily accommodate the spatial needs of a commode, being small, enclosed, and private. Early indoor toilets had in fact been known as garderobes because they actually were used to store clothes, as the smell of ammonia from human waste was found to deter fleas and moths. This dual-purpose arrangement was common in medieval castles and manor houses across Europe, where the garderobe served as both a primitive latrine and a wardrobe. The ammonia vapors rising from the waste pit below genuinely did help protect woolen garments and furs from insect damage, making this an unexpectedly practical arrangement for the era. Ancient and medieval precursors. The history of the toilet stretches back thousands of years before the modern water closet. The Indus Valley civilization, flourishing around 2600 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, constructed some of the earliest known flush toilets. The cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa featured sophisticated urban drainage systems with individual household toilets connected to covered sewers running beneath the streets. These were remarkably advanced for their time and would not be matched in sophistication for millennia. Ancient Rome famously developed elaborate public latrines, some seating dozens of people simultaneously on long stone benches with keyhole-shaped openings. Water flowed continuously beneath the seats, carrying waste into the city's sewer system, most notably the Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's earliest sewage systems. Originally constructed around the 6th century BCE, Roman latrines were social spaces where citizens conducted conversations and even business dealings. A communal sponge on a stick, known as a tersorium or xylospongium, served in place of toilet paper and was shared among users, a practice that may have contributed to the spread of parasitic infections. Following the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe experienced a significant regression in sanitary infrastructure. Medieval cities became notoriously filthy, with chamber pots emptied directly into streets and rivers. The garderobe, a small room or closet projecting from the outer wall of a castle, represented the medieval elite's solution. Waste simply dropped through a shaft into a moat, cesspit, or the open air below. The stench was considerable, but as mentioned, it served the secondary purpose of protecting clothing
The first
from
true
pests.
flush toilet in the modern sense is generally attributed to Sir John Harington, a godson of Queen Elizabeth I, who designed and installed a water closet at his home in Kelston, near Bath, in 1596. He described his invention in a satirical pamphlet titled A New Discourse of a Stale Subject, called The Metamorphosis of Ajax. Ajax being a pun on Ajax, Elizabethan slang for a privy. Harington's device featured a flush valve that released water from a cistern above, washing waste into a cesspool below. He installed one for the Queen at Richmond Palace, but the invention failed to gain widespread adoption. The lack of adequate sewage infrastructure meant that Harington's flush toilet was ahead of its time by roughly 2 centuries. Alexander Cumming and Joseph Bramah. The next significant advancement came in 1775, when Alexander Cumming, a Scottish watchmaker and mathematician, patented the S-shaped trap, a crucial innovation that remains fundamental to modern plumbing. The S-trap maintained a standing pool of water in the curved pipe beneath the toilet bowl, creating a seal that prevented foul sewer gases from rising back into the living space. This simple but brilliant concept solved one of the most persistent problems with indoor toilets and made them far more tolerable in enclosed spaces. Just 3 years later, in 1778, Joseph Bramah, a prolific English inventor, improved upon Cumming's design with a more reliable valve mechanism. Bramah's toilets were manufactured commercially and became the standard in English homes for nearly a century. His company reportedly produced over 6,000 units, making the flush toilet accessible to the upper and growing middle classes of Georgian and early Victorian England. Thomas Crapper and the Victorian era. No discussion of toilet history is complete without mentioning Thomas Crapper, though his role is frequently exaggerated in popular culture. Crapper did not invent the flush toilet, but his plumbing company, founded in London in 1861, made significant contributions to its popularization and refinement. He held several patents related to plumbing innovations, including improvements to the ballcock mechanism that controlled water flow in cisterns. His company supplied bathroom fittings to several royal residences, earning royal warrants. The widespread but mistaken belief that the slang term crap derives from his name is likely a coincidence. The word predates him by centuries. The Victorian era was the true golden age of water closet development. The Great Stink of 1858, when the smell of untreated sewage in the River Thames became so overwhelming that Parliament was nearly forced to evacuate, catalyzed a massive overhaul of London's sewer system under the direction of engineer Joseph Bazalgette. His network of intercepting sewers, pumping stations, and treatment works transformed the city's sanitation and set a model for urban infrastructure worldwide. With proper sewage systems finally in place, the indoor water closet became practical for widespread adoption. During this period, manufacturers competed fiercely to produce better, more hygienic, and more aesthetically pleasing toilets. George Jennings introduced the first public pay toilets at the Great Exhibition of 1851 in London's Crystal Palace, where 827,280 visitors paid 1 penny each to use them, giving rise to the British euphemism, to spend a penny. Thomas Twyford introduced the first one-piece ceramic toilet in 1885, replacing the earlier metal and wood constructions that were difficult to clean and harbored bacteria. His Unitas model became so widely exported that the word entered several languages as a generic term for toilet. Arrival in America. When the water closet reached the United States in the 1880s, it entered a nation undergoing rapid urbanization and industrialization. American cities were growing at unprecedented rates, and the sanitary challenges were immense. Tenement buildings in New York, Chicago, and other major cities housed dozens of families sharing a single outdoor privy, or, at best, a few water closets in hallways. The contrast between the luxury of private bathrooms in elite hotels like the Tremont House in Boston, which had indoor plumbing as early as 1829, though not flush toilets in the modern sense, and the squalor of working-class sanitation was stark. The American plumbing industry grew rapidly in the 1890s and early 1900s, driven by both public health legislation and consumer demand. Cities passed ordinances requiring connection to municipal sewer systems and mandating indoor plumbing in new construction. The Sears, Roebuck and Company catalog began offering complete bathroom fixtures by mail order, bringing modern plumbing within reach of middle-class and even some working-class families. By the 1920s, the indoor bathroom had become standard in most new American homes, and the water closet was firmly established as an essential fixture of civilized life. American plumbing codes still refer to a toilet as a water closet, or a WC, a testament to the enduring influence of the original British terminology. Plumbing manufacturers continue to use the term water closet to differentiate toilets from urinals in technical specifications, catalogs, and building codes. This distinction is not merely semantic, it reflects genuine differences in fixture design, water consumption, drainage requirements, and installation specifications. The water closet's British origins left a remarkable linguistic footprint across the globe. Many South American countries refer to a toilet as a water, or WC, a direct borrowing from English. The Royal Spanish Academy Dictionary accepts water as a name for a toilet or bathroom, which is derived from the British term water closet. This linguistic adoption occurred during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when British engineering and manufacturing expertise dominated global infrastructure development, and British plumbing fixtures were exported worldwide. In French, the expression aller aux waters, to go to the waters, has now become obsolete, but it also derives from water closet. WC is still used in the French language, although not as commonly as the term toilette, and is pronounced as VC, a shortened version of double VC, reflecting the French pronunciation of the letter W. The persistence of this abbreviation in a language that has otherwise thoroughly adapted borrowed English terms speaks to the deep cultural impact of the water closet's introduction to France. In Germany, the expression Klo, derived from the first syllable of closet, itself borrowed from the English closet, is still widely used in everyday conversation, though the term is considered colloquial and not appropriate for polite or formal conversation. The full term Wasserklosett was once Standard German, directly translating water closet, and its abbreviation WC remains universally understood and frequently appears on signage throughout German-speaking countries. Continental European traditions. In Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands, the toilet is often kept in a separate room known as the WC, even in newly built residences. This architectural tradition reflects both practical considerations and cultural attitudes toward hygiene. The separation of the toilet from the bathing area is considered more sanitary, as it allows one family member to use the toilet while another bathes, and it prevents the spread of aerosol particles generated during flushing from contaminating toothbrushes and other personal hygiene items, a concern that modern scientific research has validated. In the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, Flanders, as well as the French-speaking part, Wallonia, WC is a frequently used synonym for toilet. The Netherlands shares this usage, and the abbreviation appears on public signage, in real estate listings, and in everyday conversation without any sense of formality or archaism. This stands in contrast to England, where WC has become somewhat old-fashioned in speech, though it persists on signs and in official documents. The Dutch toilet design deserves special mention, as it features a unique flat shelf or inspection platform within the bowl, rather than the water-filled bowl common in American designs or the steep slope typical of British models. This design, sometimes called the shelf toilet, or German shelf toilet, as it is also common in Germany, was originally intended to allow inspection of one's stool for health monitoring purposes. a practice that reflects the practical, health-conscious attitude toward bodily functions that characterizes Northern European culture. While modern Dutch and German homes increasingly feature washdown or siphonic toilets more similar to international norms, the shelf design remains common and is still manufactured. The toilet in the 20th and 21st centuries. The 20th century brought continued refinements to toilet technology. The development of vitreous china as the standard material for toilet bowls and tanks in the early 1900s vastly improved hygiene, as the smooth, non-porous surface resisted bacterial colonization and was easy to clean. The siphonic flush, which uses the siphon principle to create a powerful cleansing action with relatively little water, became the dominant American design, while the washdown flush remained standard in most of Europe. Water conservation became an increasingly important consideration in the latter half of the 20th century. Early flush toilets used as much as 13 liters, 3.4 gallons, per flush. The U.S. Energy Policy Act of 1992 mandated that all new toilets sold in the United States use no more than 6 liters, 1.6 gallons, per flush, and subsequent innovations have reduced this further. Dual flush toilets, offering a choice between a full flush and a reduced flush for liquid waste, were pioneered in Australia by Bruce Thompson in 1980 and have since become standard in much of the world. The Japanese toilet revolution, led by companies like TOTO with their Washlet product line introduced in 1980, brought electronic bidet functions, heated seats, air drying, deodorization, and even music to the humble water closet. These high-tech toilets are now found in over 80% of Japanese households and have begun gaining popularity in Europe and North America. Today, the water closet, whether called a toilet, WC, loo, john, lavatory, restroom, or any of dozens of other euphemisms, remains one of the most significant public health innovations in human history. Its development and widespread adoption have prevented countless millions of deaths from waterborne diseases and fundamentally transformed the relationship between human civilization and its waste. The simple act of flushing, so taken for granted in the developed world, represents the culmination of thousands of years of engineering, public health advocacy, and cultural evolution.